What is this? Okay. Any idea what this might be?
Parathyroid.
Right. Yeah, I can see where you might think initially it's a thymus gland slide, but this is a parathyroid gland slide. And let's go up here. And I might ask you at a magnification something like this. What these cells are. Chief cells. And what do they secrete? PTH. Okay. And what are these cells?
Oxyphil.
Oxyphil cells. And what do they do? Well, maybe they do. If you know, publish. Because okay, no, we don't know what they do. We're not sure. Okay. This one most likely it could be mistaken for thymus at lower magnification. Most of the slides you'll know what gland you're in. This one probably I will let you know what gland you're in. But ask you what kind of cell is this, or what kind of cell is that, what hormone does it secrete? So, parathyroid. Okay. There's an overview of a parathyroid. Okay. And while you can find oxyphil cells scattered here and there among the chief cells, I'll choose a slide like this one that has colonies of them. It's much easier to tell chief from oxyphil when you have a bunch of them together in one place. Over here, it's a little harder. Okay. That's an oxyphil. But it's so much easier when you've got just a whole bunch of them together in one spot, like we have over here somewhere, right there. It's oxyphil, and there's your chief. Okay.
So the chief ones, like the darker one?
The little smaller ones, yeah, don't have as much cytoplasm. What else might you mistake this for? At a lower magnification, maybe, but it won't be at a lower magnification. You might be prone to think that that's an islet of Langerhans, maybe. But these are not acini. The chief cells, they hardly have any cytoplasm around their nucleus. They're very small cells. Whereas these oxyphil cells, you can see nucleus, cytoplasm, and even cell membrane in some places. Much more cytoplasm, bigger cells. The little cells are not organized into rings with right centers, so it's not a pancreas slide. Okay, what do we have here?
That's a thymus gland.
Not thymus. Pancreas. This is pancreas. Here's a key feature that tells you that. A couple of them, actually. This and this. What is that? Duct. Pancreatic duct. Pancreas is mostly exocrine gland. Exocrine glands have ducts. None of the other ones have ducts. Just the pancreas. So if you see a duct, it's got to be the pancreas. None of the other endocrine glands have ducts. This is mostly an exocrine gland. What do we look for endocrine-wise in the pancreas? What's the endocrine part? What are they called? Islets of Langerhans, how many do you see in the field? How many islets of Langerhans are in the field? We've got this one. That's one, okay. 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, we've got 5. I think that was one right there. Let's go see. But maybe that one isn't. 4, that one isn't over there, okay. But this one is, okay. So that's an islet of Langerhans. And around it are acini looking like little dark purple circles with light centers. There's an acinus. See the dark purple circle with a light center? That's one acinus. There's your islet there. Okay. And name a hormone or hormones that come out of the islet. Insulin, glucagon, somatostatin, pancreatic polypeptide. Right. Okay. Now, you will not be asked to distinguish alpha and beta and delta and F cells, but you may be asked what those secrete. Okay, so on the slide, you'll be asked to recognize islets versus acini versus the pancreatic duct, and know what hormones come out of the islets. There may be questions on the multiple choice portion about which of the cells in the islets secrete glucagon. Which cells, what do the delta cells secrete, or something like that. So, you know those 4 cell types and what hormone comes from each one. Okay, that's one pancreas slide. What do you suppose we have here? Let's go up a little bit higher. That's a duct. This is a pancreas slide. So that's pancreatic duct. It's lined by a columnar epithelium. That's your main duct. And there's an acinus, pancreatic acini. What do pancreatic acini secrete? Pancreatic juice for digestion of meals. Pancreatic juice. Okay, on this one now, we'll back it down a little bit. I want to look around and on this slide, there's your islet. That's an islet of Langerhans on this one. Surrounded by acini, like the drawing in the book. And I think I saw one over here too, yeah. No, that's blood vessels. Okay. Arteries and a vein. There's your islet. Okay. So, a couple of options for pancreas. And what do we have here? You wanted to call a couple of the other slides this one.
Is that a pancreas too?
Thymus. This is your thymus gland. You see lobules with cortex and medulla. Okay, these are thymic lobules. That's a lobule there. That's a lobule over here. This is another lobule. They're various sizes and shapes. Thymic lobules. They're dark around the periphery, and that's the cortex of the lobule, like that. And then they're light in here. That's the medulla. Okay. A lobule has cortex and medulla. What is this out here?
Is that the
Capsule. The fibrous capsule or capsule surrounding it. And then, let's see right here. There's the capsule. Here's a bit of that tissue penetrating in here, separating this lobe from this one down here. What's that called?
is that the corpuscles?
Nope, not the corpuscles. What divides one lobule from another? Trabeculae, right. Like right there. They're inward extensions of the capsule. Divide up the interior into the thymic lobules. Okay. And there's cortex. Here's medulla. Medulla's in the center of the lobule. Is lighter. Yeah, I want a better one. Let's see. Our monitor didn't wash the color out so bad. There we go. I'll try this one. Okay. What are these things here? Those are the Hassel's corpuscles. Hassel's corpuscles. Okay. Now, what kind of cell is that? We've got two cell types. The bigger ones are the endocrine cells. They're called epithelial cells. And what are all the others? T cells. T cells. This is where T cells come from. There's another good Hassel's down there with the blue center. There we go. There's the Hassel's corpuscle with the blue center. What about the hormones secreted by this gland?
Is there 3 of them or 4? There's 4 of them. So the
Thymosin.
thymic, hormonal
Thymic factor,
factor,
thymic
thymosin,
humoral factor, thymopoietin.
and then thymosin.
Thymosin is the
Thymosin.
principal one. And you should know what it is that they do, what their function is. Promote the proliferation and maturation of T cells.
But T cells don't do anything. What about T cells? They don't do anything.
T cells, yeah, they're the cornerstones of your immune system. They're your most important immune cells. This is where they come from.
What's the function? Promotes maturation of the T cells?
Proliferation and maturation of the T cells. All of that will be in your lab notes. I'm just rehashing them here. Okay. That's your thymic lobules. Okay. And here, thymus again. What's the difference between this one and the other one? This is adult thymus. And yes, that's a difference also. This gland enlarges up until puberty, reaches its largest size, maybe 70 grams at puberty. What you saw before was the adolescent thymus. In the adult, it atrophies, it withers away to mostly fat. So here we have remnants of a thymic lobule. That's what used to be the cortex. This is the medulla of what used to be a lobule. The trabeculae are gone, the capsule is gone, we no longer have any of those. But if we look around in these lobules, in some of them we can still see, that's all fat out in there. Like in this one, let's see, let's go there. In the medulla of what's left of this lobule, we've still got Hassel's corpuscles and epithelial cells and T cells. Hassel's corpuscles, epithelial cells, and T cells. But the gland has atrophied away to mostly this, which is adipose tissue, mostly fat. Okay, that was quick. Yeah, this is an adrenal gland, okay? So, let's see here. What is this part of it called? Well, not which zone, which of the two main cortex. We've got a capsule here, and then this is adrenal cortex. What's this over here in the middle with these purple cells around it?
Medulla?
That's the adrenal medulla. What are the purple cells called? Chromophore cells. What are these things that are clustered around? Venous sinuses. What are chromophore cells good for? What do they secrete? Epinephrine and norepinephrine. Epinephrine and norepinephrine. Okay. We've got up here, we've got us an adipose capsule. Okay. Then your fibrous capsule. Now this is adrenal cortex. What is this part called? Zona glomerulosa. Zona glomerulosa. Name a hormone or a group of hormones that come out of there. They're steroids, but what group of them? Mineralocorticoids, or one in particular, aldosterone. Okay, there you go. What is this zone? Zona fasciculata. Zona fasciculata, it's your widest one. What group of hormones, group of steroid hormones come out of this zone? Glucocorticoids. What's the chief glucocorticoid? Cortisol. Okay. These long, thin lines stop right about there, so what is this zone? Zona reticularis. And what do we get out of there? Adrenal androgens. Adrenal androgens. And the chief one is? Take the shortcut. DHEA. There you go. Dehydroepiandrosterone. Good. Okay. Okay, so that's our cortex up here. There's our medulla. Chromophore cells around venous sinuses. Epinephrine, norepinephrine. There's the adrenal medulla. Okay. Well, we've got 3 of these, but try to use them to the extent possible on that. The others aren't nearly as good, it seems. Maybe that one. Looks like spiderweb, doesn't it? Okay. Let's see, where'd he go? Here we go. What do we have, do you suppose? Ovary. This is an ovary. What is this called? Germinal epithelium. Germinal epithelium, and this underneath it.
The stroma? No.
Tunica albuginea. Tunica albuginea. Now we're in the stroma here. Okay, but we've got 2 regions within the stroma. Okay, let's go back down further. There we go, okay. What is this part called here? Ovarian cortex. Because that's where these follicles are, they're in the ovarian cortex. In here then, this is the medulla, ovarian medulla. And you have the cortex outermost, you have the medulla innermost. Okay. And just incidentally, right here is the hilum. That's where the ovarian artery and vein penetrate. Okay, let's see here. And here we are, it's another ovary. Here's our germinal epithelium, the simple cuboidal epithelium. Here's our tunica albuginea. Now we're into the stroma, and particularly we're in the ovarian cortex because we see ovarian follicles here. And what is this follicle?
The primary one?
Not primary.
Primordial? No.
Primordial.
Primordial.
This is a primordial follicle. Okay, we've got a primary oocyte surrounded by a squamous epithelium of follicular cells. Primordial follicles. You'll have more of those than anything else. Okay? Let's see up here. What is this then?
Second.
This is a primary follicle. Primary follicle. Notice the oocyte, the primary oocyte has gotten much larger. And we've got cuboidal follicular cells now rather than squamous. What is this called? That's the zona pellucida. Zona pellucida, a glycoprotein layer around it. It's starting to get a theca here. This is a theca folliculi. What hormone is this thing secreting?
Estrogen.
Estrogens. It's secreting estrogens out of this. Estrogens are coming from this primary follicle. Okay. And then what about this one?
Secondary.
That is a secondary follicle. What makes it a secondary follicle?
The spaces
It has two.
Yeah. What is that called? Antrum. It is the antrum, or follicular cavity filled with follicular fluid. Secondary follicle and a Graafian follicle have an antrum. Primary and primordial do not. Okay. Okay. And it's bigger than the primary was, but our oocyte is still in the center of it. It's still in the center. Know it.
So do we have to know the names of the structures of the follicle itself? Because I don't see them on the study guide, like the antrum and...
Yeah, you should know antrum and zona pellucida and so forth. As part of the discussion about the follicles, I labeled those things for you on a sketch on the board, so you should know those. Okay. Then, let's see. Okay. What are these two here? Graafian follicles. Graafian follicles. They're bigger than the secondary. And notice the position of the egg. It's not in the center, it's at one side. It's at the outside edge. In preparation for what? Ovulation. These things will pop at ovulation, release the oocyte. So it's moved to one side. We have a very large antrum filled with follicular fluid. What is this cell?
Ovarian follicle? No.
The whole thing's an ovarian follicle. What is the cell in the follicle?
Ovocyte?
It's an oocyte.
Yeah.
We had one.
Secondary oocyte.
What, secondary oocyte. This is a
Okay.
secondary oocyte. What makes it different from a primary oocyte?
It's smaller.
Primary oocytes are diploid. This is haploid. This one has finally completed the first meiotic division after all these years. Yeah. Started as a 5-month, well, this is a cat ovary, but in a female, they would have started prophase 1, meiosis 1, as a 5-month fetus in the womb. But not until puberty or later will they complete that. This one has already completed the first meiotic division, and now this is a secondary oocyte, a haploid cell. What are these cells around it called? They're going to be released with it in ovulation. Yeah, that's the corona radiata. The corona radiata is going to go with the oocyte when it pops. Now, we don't have one on the slide, but if we did, what is the ruptured follicle called? Corpus hemorrhagicum. Corpus hemorrhagicum. And then what causes ovulation and the formation of the corpus luteum? What hormone? LH. LH causes that. And then LH will cause the corpus hemorrhagicum to become this. What is this? Corpus luteum. And what is the principal hormone it secretes?
Progesterone.
Progesterone. What is the principal hormone secreted by these?
Estrogen.
Estrogens. Estrogens. Okay. Okay, and then at the end of the cycle, you get little things like this. What is that? We've got,
Corpus.
Albicans.
yeah, there's one up here too. There's a couple of them there too. Little masses of scar tissue called corpus albicans. White bodies, corpus albicans. That's what becomes of the corpus luteum at the end of the cycle. Okay. So we'll be able to identify those. Okay, what are we looking at?
Seminiferous tubules.
Seminiferous tubules. So we are in a testis. Let's look around a little here. Well, it might take a while to find it on this one, so let me just go with some of these things up here. Those are seminiferous tubules. What are these around them? Leydig cells, or interstitial cells. What hormone do they secrete? Testosterone. Okay. Let's see. What are we in now?
Epididymis.
This is the epididymis. Okay. And let's go to this magnification. And there we go. Are we in the head or the tail of the epididymis? The head. And you know this because we have a columnar epithelial lining. Columnar, tall, skinny cells. What are these hair-like things called here? Stereocilia. Stereocilia. Okay. All this stuff in the middle there, that's sperm. There's the mass of sperm. Okay. Let's see here. What about this? Any thoughts on what this is?
It's in the tail.
It's epididymis also, but this is the tail. Notice we've got a cuboidal epithelium. And a lot of sperm in here and some stereocelia there. This is the tail of the epididymis, lined by a cuboidal epithelium instead of columnar. Okay. Now here's our seminiferous tubules again. Let's go and look at one of these. Okay. Here's our basement membrane. So what are these cells? Spermatogonia. Cells in the first row, spermatogonia. What about the second row here? What are these?
Secondary.
Primary spermatocytes. Primary spermatocytes. The big nuclei in the second and third rows, maybe. These out here,
Secondary spermatocyte.
secondary spermatocytes. These little bitty ones, spermatids. Okay. And we can see tails of sperm in here. So those are your layers in the wall of the seminiferous tubule. Okay. There are a couple of other different testis slides, but they all are basically similar to this. So you can recognize it on this one. You should be able to on either of the other two. Okay. That's our slides. Okay. Rest